I am always conscious of saying too much because the best art says just enough. And so I always try to be as concise as possible. If I'm exploring an idea, and part of the way I treat videos is as explorations of ideas, um, if I release a video, I'm exploring an idea. And if I'm exploring that idea, I'm trying to do it as concisely as possible. So if I have a thesis, I want to explore the thesis in a way that doesn't say too much. And part of the interesting thing that happens when we consume art or we experiencing art is we make some connections ourselves. And by over describing or over explaining the art or going too deep into it, then you can eliminate some of that essential connection making that people do when they experience art. I mean, some of the best art is allowing you to make those inferences and connections for yourself. So it's always worthy to look at what you're doing and think, is this too much? Like, have I gone too far? You can over explain an idea or a concept or a thesis that you're trying to work through in like a song. And maybe a good way to work on a song would be to try getting your thesis down, a really specific thing that you're trying to communicate or say through your song. Maybe it's more stream of consciousness, in which case that wouldn't work. But if you have a thesis, maybe you get that thesis down and then you build, you write, you basically flesh out that thesis as much as you can, and then you cut. And then in cutting, you say, okay, what's the bare essentials here? What do I have to say? And then maybe those bare essentials are your song. You could also go at it the other way, where, you start with like nothing, but like the very, very bare essentials, just like a couple lines, and then you build out from that slowly until you have like just enough to fill a song. But I always think it's best to cut. Like, I think you start with a lot of text, start with a lot of ideas, start with a lot of like details about the idea that you're trying to flesh out, and then ask yourself how much of it is necessary, and always err on the side, I'd say, of say less. Because especially if you're starting out, it'll be too tempting to say too much. And I think it might work better if you say less. So that's what I would recommend. Try saying less. And you can even just ask someone like, have I said too much here? And don't be afraid to like lean into it. Maybe you could, maybe by saying more, depending on the scope of the project, that might be necessary. But I think as a rule, I would try to say less.